Welcome, Zellerman agents. Today I want to talk to you about Form RE155, our exclusive tenant brokerage agreement. This form is to be used whenever you're helping someone find something for lease/for rent. So it works just like the buyer brokerage agreement, except this is a tenant brokerage agreement. So let's open up the form and take a look at it. You will notice when the form opens, we have our, of course, date here at the top. Always put in the date, year correctly. The first part of this contract, page and a half or so, is our normal legalese and disclaimers. So go ahead, refer back to Form 150 if you need the detailed explanation of each of these sections, but we're not going to spend time on that because they're all the same on each of the contracts. Now we enter into our actual, here we go, tenant brokerage agreement. So this is our agreement here. Start out with a date, July 14th, between the Mr. Tenant and Zellerman. So put the first and last name. If there's two people, put both their names. The term, this is obviously negotiable. We're going to put from today, 14, until midnight. It always ends at midnight in our contracts. Let's say we're going to do this until October 7th, month 4, and they're looking at a lease rate of, let's say, $3,500. Okay. Now this tenant agreement goes straight into compensation. We're going to spend a lot of time with these particular tenants, helping them find a place that's just right for them, the same as you would for a buyer brokerage. The one thing about helping in Atlanta versus other cities is the listing agent pays very, very little to the buyer's tenant. And I shouldn't say buyer, to the person leasing, to their representative. Sometimes it's as low as, there's a couple agencies that pay as low as 10% of 1 month's rent, which, to be honest, doesn't even make it worth your gas driving there to show it. So this, you need to be upfront with your tenants and say, look, I'm happy to help you find a place, but you got to realize in Atlanta, we have to charge you because most brokers don't pay cooperating fees, or if they do, they're very, very minor. And so if they're agreement in that and they value your services, they'll pay. If they don't value your services, they may not pay, and that's fine. But don't waste your time showing something, 5, 6, 7 times or 20 times, spending all your time and gas only to make $200 or $300, because you will come out negative and the brokerage comes out negative, I guarantee you. So that's why I spent a little time on this, but at least with those Zellerman agents, you need to be upfront with your tenants. You need to be at least making 50% of 1 month's rent, at least, to make it worth your time. So we're going to use our minimum standards. Some brokers charge a full month's rent to the tenant. We're going to charge 50% of 1 month's rent, okay? But this is, depending on how big the search is, you could charge 2 months up front, but I would say our normal fee would be 1 month. The minimum fee should be 50%, okay? So we're going to say that the tenant is going to pay us 50% of 1 month's rent. Now, this could mean if the cooperating broker, if the listing broker, is paying 10%, that means the tenant technically would only owe us 40%. If the listing broker was paying 20%, then they would only owe us 30%. Now, legally, we say 50%, but that's coming from the tenant. So you could take the 50% plus the 10 or 20% as kind of a bonus they're paying you to make it worth your time. That's really up to you. I personally think that could go either way. It's up to you and your tenant and the relationship you have. Okay, so that's one. If the tenant purchases a property during the time, we're going to charge them a 3% rate. Okay? So if they lease a property and end up purchasing it, as a broker representing them, we at least want half. But because I'm assuming there will be a broker involved in the listing, since we're shopping this with another broker, so they'll get 3, we'll get 3. But you do need to dictate that here, or you will be left with nothing. And your tenant, and with nothing, you can't afford to represent the tenant. and then the tenant would go unprotected and only be able to work with that listing agent, which could be very unfortunate for them. Here, this is where we can charge a retainer fee to the tenant. If this is going to be a long, exhaustive search, if it's something very unique and expensive and it's going to take a lot of your time, by all means you can charge a retainer fee. And the way that works is, let's say we charge them a retainer fee of $1,000. When they finally find something, we charge them that 50% in 1 month, but we deduct the retainer fee from it. If they end up not finding anything with us, just stay where they are, then that $1,000 would be retained to the firm, and you would get however much your current split is on that. In this case, we feel pretty good about the tenant, so we're not going to charge them a retainer fee, but it's perfectly up to you, the agent, to value your time and to do that, and also to read your client. Okay. Tenant, we're going to, here, again, 90 days after the expiration date. So therefore, if we produce a tenant, our contract expires, but they go back and lease something the day after our contract expires that we've already shown them, and without another agent, then we would still be entitled to our commission. And that's not really written for the honest clients. It's more written for someone that feels they might that obviously doesn't value your time, and that might try to get out of paying you, and that would be quite sad because you probably put a lot of time, effort, and money into finding their new home. If they're not happy with your service at any time, have them call your broker, and we'll solve it. And that may mean letting them out of it at no charge. But if they are happy, and we assume they are, if they've lasted throughout the contract, and the day after the contract they go and lease something that you've already shown them, by all means, that's why you're protected in this contract. And those aren't the kind of clients we like to work with, but sometimes we have to protect you as our agents and the firm. Down here, tenant acknowledges, and we are a member of FMLS. Duties, this goes into our duties, how we basically treat the tenant like a client. We'll help them locate a property, we'll show them the property, we'll help them during the lease, we'll even help them through the walkthrough. Property disclosures, we'll disclose anything we know on the property, and we'll try to provide them a copy of the seller's, the landlord's disclosure if they have one on file. Miscellaneous, these are the standard miscellaneous documents that say this is a contract in Georgia in which Georgia law applies, time is of the essence, etc., etc. And then our last page is special stipulations. Of course, our admin fee goes in here. And just so you know, as a curious fact, nearly every rental contract the company does, especially at less than half of 1 month's rent, the firm actually loses money on. That is one reason for the administration fees. We were, 2013 and first quarter of 2014, a lot of rentals came up, and we were actually taking a rather large negative hit on every contract. And we don't want to do that again. So anyway, we're going to go down here, and the special steps will be in the office stipulations. And this would be a tenant administration fee, okay? And you select it, and it puts it in there right for you. You read it to make sure it's all okay, and it is. And you're done. Always make sure your tenant's first and last name is in here. If it's two tenants, put both their names in here. Have them sign above it. Make sure their phone number is in there. Definitely make sure they have an email address in there. That's how we deliver legal notices. Their current address, city, state, and obviously make sure your email address is in there, and this is the one you actually use. And sign it and initial every page. And congratulations, you are now in a tenant brokerage relationship and protected.